I want to talk a little bit about Hannibal and Hamilcar. Now, most of us are familiar. If you've been around board games a while, you're familiar with Hannibal. It's one of the earliest card-driven games produced by Avalon Hill back in the 1990s. This is the 20th anniversary edition. It's got the smaller box. The new edition that just came out has a much larger box, as you can see here, so you can actually fit all of the bits in there. Now, there are some clever Houdinis among us who claim to be able to get everything in this box, but unless I took the miniatures out of the tray and just put them in here, there's just no way that was going to work. And I didn't want the miniatures damaged, so I always kept them separate. What I wanted to clarify is there's actually two games in this box. There is two maps. On this side of the map is the game Hamilcar. And so Hamilcar now has its own rulebook. So Hamilcar is the first Punic War. On the reverse side of this map, there is the game Hannibal that we all know from the 1990s. It's relatively unchanged in terms of how the game plays. There's some new cards. I think there's some new leaders from the Avalon Hill edition and the Valley Games edition. So if you're familiar with it, it's relatively unchanged. There's just a few differences, and they are all in terms of Chrome, just more cards. You can play it exactly as it was in the 1990s. This is the game Hamilcar. Now, what they tried to do in the earlier game was they had one rule book, and then there's the Hamilcar rule book, which basically treated this as a very Chrome-heavy scenario for Hannibal, and it just totally didn't work. What they've now done in the Golden Geek edition is they've made Hamilcar its own game, and it's included in the box. This is a much, much better approach. So I want to say up front, I'm really enjoying this. This is playable. It's fun. It's a little bit more Chrome heavy than Hannibal was. So, and I would say that Hamilcar's complexity is maybe just a little bit more, just maybe one tick more in terms of complexity than Caesar versus Gaul. The game from Mark Simonich, produced by GMT Games, uses the Hannibal system. So that's in terms of complexity goes, I would say Hannibal's the simplest of them, and then this one here is just a little bit more Chrome heavy. So what you have here is the first Punic War. Now, before I talk about the game, let me talk about the update kit, because I'm a little disappointed in the update kit, and here's why. In the update kit, we're told that all we need is a map patch that's going to help make the game playable. It's true, but it's a little clumsy. I would have, with all of the changes to the map, I would have preferred a whole new board. And I really wish the update kit, if they priced it a little more expensive, give us a whole new board, because you kind of actually, well, I'm just going to say, you kind of actually do need the whole board if you want to avoid fumbling around with some other things. So the board does have a typo. There's a setup typo in this space. It calls for one of the tribal tokens, and the setup doesn't call for one there. So there is a misprint still in that box. The other issue is this device here. In the new map, these little light-colored C lane lines are going to snake their way around to the various different ports. So this one here, this line is going to move to Lipara. This one's going to move to Neapolis and to Roma and so forth. That's how it works. This represents Mare Terranium, the entirety of the sea. And this is a way of moving long distance through a direct route from port to port. So I could move from Rome by way of this to any of these 8 ports. Okay. Now, in terms of actual play, that's not that hard for me to recognize. I just orient this so it's pointing relatively to the different ports. And I just remember that from Rome, I can, for 2 movement points, I can move onto this to any of these locations. And so that's just something I've got to remember. The lightning bolts tell me that I would face 3 different storms if the Cruel Seas card is played against the Romans while they're making this trans-Mare Terranium move. So that's one issue, is I just have to remember how this thing works. That's not that difficult. Another issue is naval supremacy used to be a politically significant thing. Whoever had naval supremacy get to put a token there, and it counts as in terms of a politically significant region. That is no longer the case. What this space is supposed to say now is Mediterranean. What this represents now is whoever controls a majority of the ports that connect to the Mediterranean, whoever controls a majority of those 8 ports will get a politically significant token on this display. And so right now, the Romans, they control 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the 8 ports that connect to this. So that's why they control that at the present time in this game that's underway. So in terms of, update kit, I just got to remember that this has nothing to do with naval supremacy. I just got to pretend like this says Mediterranean and remember that this connects with this. So far, I'm okay. I'm not terribly happy, but I'm okay. Now we have the real problem. On this display here, and I'm going to orient the camera a little bit differently so you can see it, there is a seamanship display which tracks the growth of Roman seamanship over the course of the First Punic War. I don't remember how it worked in the original game, but there's different, you grow up in stages in terms of seamanship, and none of this is true. This has been completely overhauled, but they didn't give us any map patch for this. Here's our map patch. The only map patch you're going to find is on the back of the rulebook itself, which is really unfortunate. I either cut this, make a copy of this, and just kind of insert it under the plexiglass here, or I just use the display on the map and reference this as I play. That's pretty much what I'm doing now to remember how this whole thing works. And there's a lot more data on here, and it's important data. So I'm going to say Phalanx, you guys, I don't know. This is a bit of a fail here because you sent us a whole page of stickers, right? Whole page of stickers to change the text on 3 cards, and the changes were pretty minimal. Whereas this is a huge deal, and we got nothing. And this was an update kit. I could have probably done without that and just remembered that these spaces are connected easier than not having this updated to what's on the back of the rulebook. So for future reference, Phalanx, it would really be great if in future updates you give us everything we need to actually update the game and make it as playable as possible. So I kind of wish that they would, at this point, I wish I could have bought the whole map. But it's not worth the money to buy the whole, shoot match just for this. So I guess I live with it. But those of you that are wondering about an update kit, just understand you're not getting something that you really do need. So my solution to this is I'm going to make a copy of this page, cut this thing out, and then just insert it alongside the board in place of this. That's going to be my solution. So a little bit disappointed with the update kit. Now I'm going to do another video because this is a really cool game and I want to tell you how cool it is, but I had to clarify because I know some people are rushing out there trying to find out where they can buy the update kit. I thought you should know what I've discovered in the last week of actually learning how to play this.